Hello, all you drops in the ocean out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor.
That sounds really profound, but really, Fletcher just took a random quote from the episode.
Right. That was the one quote I remembered from this episode. That's I don't know why, that's one of the main quotes I've always remembered from Deep Space Nine. It's the drop becomes the ocean. Then the ocean becomes the drop. Anyway, this drop is named Fletcher. That drop is named Data. He's gonna say hello.
Oh, hey, yeah. I was I'm not sure what's expected at this point.
This is Undeclared Bajor, Star Trek DS9 discussion podcast. Some would say the best Star Trek DS9 podcast.
I feel like that's a step down from last time when it was officially. And you're well, some people.
Well, not all people are enlightened. So, some people believe the Earth is flat too. So, anyway, today we're going to discuss Star Trek DS9 Season 6, Episode 4. Behind the Lines. Alternate title, The Last Temptation of Odo. Or maybe not
Is
last.
Is it the last one, though?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
We will be discussing spoilers up through this episode, but not after this episode, so it's safe to watch along with us if this is your first experience with Star Trek Deep Space Nine. But we may also spoil books, TV shows, video games, historical events, not related to Star Trek Deep Space Nine. So make sure you watch all that stuff, or, read up all your Shakespeare or whatever. Hamlet dies.
Let's say, historical events. Somebody won the 100 Years' War. Actually, did someone actually win the 100 Years' War?
I think I was actually reading the Wikipedia on that not too long ago. I think effectively France won. Because England, I think, basically had to give up its claims on France. But I think in some way the British claim they won. The 100 Years' War was where they had the Battle of, Agincourt, right? Where the British showed up with longbowmen and...
Yeah, the Battle of... I always pronounce that Agincourt. Is it Agincourt?
I don't know.
About 40% of the French nobility was killed at this battle.
Wow. So that's what some longbowmen will... That's the one with the longbowmen, right?
I don't know. It doesn't. I don't think it specifically mentions. On Henry V sailed from England with a force of 10,500 and laid siege to Harfleur. The city resisted for longer than expected, but finally surrendered. Because of the unexpected delay, most of the campaign season was gone. So instead of marching on Paris, he elected to make a raiding expedition across France towards English-occupied Calais. Where they found the much larger French army near the north of the Somme. Despite the problems of having a smaller force, his victory was nearly total. French defeat was catastrophic. This little blurb does not mention the archers, but they beat the huge, much larger force. So,
okay, well, let's we could talk about this episode, but maybe we could just do a deep dive into the 100 Years' War. We could make a podcast called Undeclared 100 Years' War.
Was it? That's pretty declared, kind of, right?
Yeah. That would be a good podcast. Every episode is 1 year of the 100 Years' War.
Definitely a predetermined number of episodes, at least. So
then you could do the 30 Years' War after that.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I don't know that either of us is history expert enough to make a good podcast out of that.
Well, we can learn. Or, we can read some Wikipedia.
Get guest historians on.
Oh, yeah.
It's do you specialize in 1415? No? You specialize in 1417? Okay, we'll talk to you in a couple weeks.
For every year of that war, there is some academic out there who is, an expert on it. So, I think this is a good podcast idea, and...
Add that to that list.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of done with the interesting part of Deep Space Nine. We can just stop this and do that 100 Years' War podcast. The
people have been clamoring for.
the subject that is very relevant and interesting to all modern people. But I guess we gotta go. We gotta talk about this episode, Behind the Lines, which originally aired October 20th, 1997. Was written by Renee Echevarria and directed by LeVar Burton.
Yay!
And I don't know why. There's a scene early on when Admiral Ross hands Sisko a pad, and Sisko kind of awkwardly takes it, and I'm like, who directed this episode? Something is pinging.
Something is LeVar Burton-y about that.
Right. I think it's Avery Brooks that we think just tells people do it the weirdest way possible all the time.
Yeah, that sounds right.
This actually was a pretty... Because LeVar Burton did the one where Dukat got like the splinter in his butt, right?
I think so, yeah. And
So,
LeVar Burton's also the one who nicknames people stuff.
Right.
So
there was no splinters in the butt in this episode, so it was kind of a low-key LeVar Burton. And Sir Lofton is in this episode. He's just being in the show now.
It's amazing.
Did he graduate from high school or something?
Maybe he turned 18,
Yeah.
and so they could use him for more than like 5 minutes every day or whatever.
That's probably what it is.
Hold on, now I'm going to look up when Sir Lofton was born.
Oh, yeah. 1979.
He's born in 78.
Oh, okay. So, he turned 18 in 96.
Okay, so that would have been a little bit ago.
Okay, so he's been 18 for a while. Maybe he just did graduate from high school or something. But the Defiant and crew are back at Starbase 375 and have, according to a captain's log, been making forays into Dominion-controlled space. After one such foray, presumably, the crew gather in the Defiant mess hall to unwind and drink Saurian brandy, artfully acquired by Nog.
Somehow.
Yep, he's a Ferengi. He went to the store, like a guy was like, hey, want to buy some Saurian brandy? He was like, yes.
Then he just goes around and be like, don't ask where I got it.
Right.
Seriously, though, where'd you get it? Oh, at this store.
Yeah. You know, there's a duty-free shop over there. Like, they have Saurian brandy, they have Romulan ale. We're an illegal, like, there's no embargoes on Space Station 375. So anyway, Chief O'Brien comes in carrying the burned-out phaser battery from their last mission, and he hands it to Sisko in some not very convincing "this thing is heavy" acting.
Yeah.
And Sisko makes a little speech about the symbolism of fighting and not giving up. We fight until our phaser batteries run out. What we do after that, I don't know.
Yeah, there's all sorts of things that strike me about this, that he's like, hey, this is the thing that we started doing. And first off, I was like, gee, do you like the phaser power cells run out that often? Like, we've never seen this before, so I guess maybe, but that seems crazy to me. And then he's like, we don't just throw something like this away. And I was like, is that what you usually do with them? You don't, like, they're not rechargeable, or like you don't put them in the replicator to like get turned into atoms so you can use those atoms to make other things. You just chuck them, eh?
Well, I guess he keeps them. I'm sure most people like recharge them or whatever.
If they're rechargeable, then it seems very wasteful to me to just stack them up in the mess hall in a way that when you're in a battle they will almost certainly fall over.
I just think it's kind of a questionable Starfleet thing. Also, it's like, man, look at these empty ammo boxes. All of these are bullets that we emptied into the enemy. Good for us.
The biggest thing about it for me is actually, like, how did this start? Like, one day their phaser power cell ran out, as apparently it is wont to do.
Uh-huh.
And he was like, no, wait a second. And he stands up and makes like a dramatic speech out of nowhere about it. Like, it reminds me of, there's an episode of Lower Decks where these command ensigns recruit Ensign Boimler to be part of their club, the Red Shirts, where they're like, yeah, we're going to show you how we help each other rank up. We're going to show you how to like really be a good command person. And part of it is like making a dramatic speech at the right moment to like inspire the crew. And so then they get to the mess hall and there's like something happening. There's some disaster happening and everyone's like cowering in fear. And it's like, we have to do something. And so like they stand up to like make a dramatic speech to inspire everybody, except there's like 4 guys in this club and they each are making a separate dramatic speech at the same time. And so the crew starts out like interested as the first person does it, and then very confused as everyone else starts to do it. And Boimler's like, what do we do? We have to do something. And he's like, we are doing something. We're inspiring the crew.
Yeah, you gotta coordinate that stuff.
He goes in and actually helps and succeeds in resolving the situation. And they're
right.
Like, ugh, what are you doing out there?
That's not leadership.
So that's just, that's what it made me think of when Sisko's just like, here's a dramatic speech out of nowhere, which is just how I see it must have originated. I don't know how else.
Right. But yeah, everybody claps at his speech, and he takes the burned out battery thing and puts it on a not very stable looking pipe thing with a bunch of other power cells.
Yep.
It's like as soon as this Defiant hits like a rock in space, all that stuff is going to fall over.
If they get into some of that serious, like Star Trek shaking, those things are going to like bounce around in there and smack somebody in the head.
Yeah. It's not a good place to put those. But LeVar Burton was just like, I don't know, put it on that pipe thing, whatever.
Was that pipe thing even there before?
Then Admiral Ross comes in wearing a snazzy new uniform.
Yeah, there's a note in here that it's like, this is the first time we see the new Admiralty uniforms.
Possibly
they now match the regular uniforms.
Possibly indicating that Admiral Ross is going to be around for a while.
I like the note is that this transition to a more militarized Starfleet is now complete, with everyone wearing these same more martial uniforms somehow.
Oh.
I don't know how they're more martial than they were before, but
their journey to the dark side is now complete.
Yep.
So yeah, Admiral Ross invites Sisko to take a walk, and we quickly learn that the Defiant was not made for walk and talks, because they are awkwardly crammed in shoulder to shoulder in that little corridor.
Yeah, they have like the one piece of corridor, and it's small.
And I was like, is this the way the standing Defiant set is, or did they specially like fly in some walls for a corridor outside the mess hall or something? I don't know. But it looked kind of like a cramped space. I think LeVar Burton was watching The West Wing or something, and he was like, "Oh, look at that walking and talking. We got to do that." So, but yeah, anyway, Starfleet Intelligence has located a big Dominion sensor array in the Argolis cluster. Get ready to hear that a bunch. And Admiral Ross wants Sisko to go blow it up. Pretty standard go blow it up mission.
Presumably he's already planning the promotion. So I'm like, why would you give him the mission just to like the next day be like, oh, by the way, you're not doing that?
Well, maybe maybe it's a little bit of a test. Like, let's see what he comes up with for this mission. So back on Terok 9 Or, we get what I am pretty sure is the coolest scene of the whole episode, in which we watch Damar walk into Quark's and talk to Quark, but we hear it all narrated by Kira and Rom watching from above.
It's a good scene.
Yep. Damar orders a drink and asks Quark if he's seen his lost pad, on which he wrote his secret memo proposing that the Cardassians poison the last batches of Ketracel White so that the Jem'Hadar don't go into kill rampage mode when it all runs out.
I mean, it makes sense to me.
Yeah. Kira asks how Rom got Damar's pad, and Rom says, "I'm good with my hands." Which,
so
what?
He did some hand stuff with Damar in the back room. Got the pad.
There's a moment later when someone's like, "Damar, shouldn't you be in trouble with Dukat?" And then Damar is like, "Oh, I made it up to him." And he said it in this really weird way. I'm like, wait. Clarify.
Cardassian military rules are weird, man. You don't even know.
But Rom's sneaky hands planted the pad outside some Jem'Hadar quarters. And as planned, it was found by some Jem'Hadar, who now come to confront Damar about it. A fight quickly breaks out, which escalates into a big professional wrestling free-for-all.
Yeah, it's a good fight. Like, I like the part where like a blast comes out of nowhere and kills a Cardassian, and then it like pans over to the Jem'Hadar who shot him, and all of a sudden a knife comes out of nowhere and kills that Jem'Hadar, and then it pans to the Cardassian who just stabbed him.
That was pretty good. Good job, LeVar Burton. In the aftermath, as the bodies are being bagged up and taken away, Dukat chews out Damar. Then Weyoun shows up to chew out Dukat. And when Dukat tries to argue back, Weyoun says, "No, smile, we need to show everybody we're still allies." And this is a perfectly normal situation for us to be standing around smiling at each other. It's like, hey, look at all these dead people. How are you doing, Dukat?
Look cheerful. Yep. I mean, from the Jem'Hadar perspective, that might be completely normal. It's like, yeah, who doesn't smile when standing over like dead people?
True. There's like, imagine all these dead bodies. It's like, hey, this weird psychopath smiling that Weyoun and Dukat are doing. It's like, yeah, I guess they are still allies.
Good. I was worried for a second.
Yeah, my worries are dissolved.
Yep.
So Sisko briefs Admiral Ross about the Argolis mission and proposes flying straight through the Argolis cluster to preserve the element of surprise. Luckily, Dax knows how to get through the gravimetric distortions.
Yeah, if it wasn't for that, then we would have no plan. It's a really good thing you asked the one guy who has Dax on his team to come up with the plan.
So Ross seems impressed and gives the go-ahead. Kira shows up in Odo's office, and Odo asks, "Hey, do you know what's up with that big fight that happened in Quarks?" And
she's like, yeah, wasn't that sweet?
Kira's like, yeah, I mean, you were there when we came up with that plan. He's like, yeah, but we agreed it was a bad idea. And she's like, no, you said it was a bad idea, then you just left. And I discussed it some more with Rom and Jake, and we decided it was a good idea. So it's like, oh, well, if Rom and Jake signed off, then that's a different story.
Well, he really... I mean, it's kind of rude to, if you're part of the group, to be like, no, I object, and then walk out. Like, oh, I don't know what you expect to happen at that point.
Frankly, at the point when Odo walks out, the meeting should be over. Like, I mean, I love Rom, I love Jake, but I'm just not quite sure how much they're adding to this resistance cell, especially in the planning stages.
Rom did the hand thing to get the pad.
True. Whatever he did with his hands, it worked, so okay.
And really, I mean, that plan worked gangbusters. Like, it couldn't...
Right.
Unless, like, Dukat had accidentally gotten killed in the crossfire, it couldn't have gone much better than it went.
Yeah, that would have been nice, but oh well. Yeah, and, like, why is Jake in this resistance cell at all? I mean, I guess Rom at least has some skills, but,
Well, Jake asked to get in, and they were like, I guess.
He seems like he can only be a liability.
I mean, it's not like the occupying force will be suspicious of the guy who is the son of the person leading the opposition to them. Like, I would be watching him 24/7. I might have him confined to quarters, quite honestly.
Right. Anyway, Odo is not happy about Kira going through with the op behind his back. He says he spends all day on the ruling council trying to keep Bajor safe, and stuff like this puts it at risk.
Wasn't that kind of the whole plan? That they were going to... Because, like, that's what Kira used to be doing, is going along to keep Bajor safe. And then we decided, hey, it's not worth keeping Bajor safe if we're not doing something to fight back. So,
right. Yeah, I feel like they need to get their priorities aligned.
So, this is a good place to talk about some interesting notes here. So, originally, Odo's role in the episode was very different from how it turned out. In Echevarria's first draft, Odo became so involved with the female changeling that he allows his need for order to consume and blind him, and actively tries to end the resistance movement. Indeed, he is the one who arrests Rom.
Ooh.
So this feels like something left from there to me, where he's like, no, maintaining order is more important than, like, you know, this stuff that's making everything crazy and going to cause problems.
Yeah.
So apparently Echevarria and Ira Stephen Bear were happy about this turn in Odo's character, but I'm sorry, neither of them was happy about the turn in Odo's character. And so eventually they decided to turn his thing into a sin of omission as opposed to a sin of commission.
Sure.
And that's how he ends up in the final draft.
But yeah, Kira says that sitting on that council has skewed Odo's priorities. They have to take action because the Federation doesn't seem to be doing very well in this war. But then the argument is interrupted by none other than that iconic Deep Space Nine character, the female changeling.
We haven't seen her since season 4. So it's been a while.
And it's like, oh crap, there's founders in the Alpha Quadrant. And then I suddenly realized, like, shouldn't we be on maximum founder alert ever since the war started?
Yeah, we haven't seen any blood tests or anything.
Like, shouldn't they just be cutting their hands constantly as they, like, have these meetings? But Odo tells Nerys it's okay and asks her to leave, which immediately sounded weird to me, but I guess it's a plot point that's what he calls her now. And then the female changeling picks up on that. And Odo's like, well, what are you doing here? And female changeling says, well, I'm trapped over here in the Alpha Quadrant with a bunch of solids, and I'm getting kind of horny. I mean, desirous of the company of a fellow changeling.
And there's got to be more of them around. Maybe the others are all on secret missions or whatever. So
I mean, that guy who was being O'Brien, who may be the same guy who was being that other admiral that one time.
Yeah.
Who turned into a bird and flew away or something.
Yeah, did we never actually find him? I'd forgotten that.
I don't think we did.
He said that there were 4 changelings on Earth, so... Or 3, or something like that.
They could all still be in play. I don't think we ever got a follow-up to that.
It's going to be Admiral Ross. It's always the Admiral. Or the bird. If a bird shows up, it's always the bird. Right.
It's like, why does this bird keep insisting on coming to our high-level meetings?
I don't know, but it's cute. That's cute.
But Odo says, okay, maybe you don't remember this, but last time we met, you infected me with a virus and then forced me to come back to the link where you took my changeling abilities away. And then female changeling says, oh, it's okay. We forgive you for that. And then Odo's like, I think you're not understanding my point.
She's like, yeah, and?
Yeah. Female changeling is like, well, we should find some time to hang out. And then she just leaves. And Odo's like,
It really was a bold move to just be like, we're cool now. And she says, we've forgiven you, as if they somehow generously gave him his shapeshifting powers back when they had nothing to do with it.
Right.
So it's like, I guess if I was Odo, my first concern would probably be like, are you here to take my shapeshifting powers away again? Because you want me to remain punished? But she's like, nah, it's cool.
I guess they were just all sitting around in the link, and they're like, hey, are we still mad at Odo? It's like, not really. It was kind of self-defense, after all. So, yeah, Sisko has a meeting with Admiral Ross, and Ross says that his adjutant, Captain Bennett, has been promoted to be in charge of the 7th Tactical Wing. Sisko says, sounds like she'll be hard to replace. And Ross is like, actually, it's going to be super easy. Barely an inconvenience. You are now my adjutant. In fact, I need you right away. Just let Dax lead that Argolis mission. I need you over here going over reports and stuff for the Bolian mission.
Yeah, that Bolian operation comes up a couple times, and I was like, what? I mean, Bolius is part of the Federation, right? What are we doing over there?
I mean, is it just, are there just a lot of Bolians on this mission?
Oh, maybe.
At a station council meeting, Dukat, Wayun, and Odo finish up the plans for Legate Prim's upcoming visit, so watch out for that. And then they are joined by the female changeling. Wayun is predictably sycophantic.
Yeah.
Dukat starts a diplomatic speech like, so nice to meet you. As rulers of our respective worlds, it will be exciting to work together. And she's like, no, shut up. By the way, I'm the ruler of both our worlds, but the main thing is, why isn't the minefield down yet?
He's still trying so hard to somehow, be in charge of stuff still.
Right. But yeah, Wayun's like, why isn't the minefield down, Dukat?
I didn't think about that until just now.
And Dukat's like, it's no big deal. I'm winning the war. And then Wayun was like, nuh-uh, I'm helping. And then Dukat and Wayun leave. And Odo's like, well, I'm going home. And then female changeling says, mind if I join you? And then he's like, okay. Back at Odo's quarters, he reminisces about the one time he hung out on the Founder homeworld, and she told him once, hey, you should try shapeshifting more, which apparently was profound advice he learned a lot from.
Yeah. But
he can't return to the link now. And the female changeling asks if it's because he's still in love with Kira, and he's like, well, also the mines. But yeah. Mostly it's the Kira
minefield.
Thing. Right. And he describes how hopelessly in love with Kira he is, which I personally assess to be an unhealthy amount.
It gets kind of creepy.
It's like every little smile disarms me and leaves me helpless. It's like, okay, well, this is a kind of an unhealthy infatuation, if you ask me. Well, and the female changeling says, well, I can help you, and holds out her hand. He's like, no, I tried meth. And she's like, no. It's linking. And so Odo and the founder link. And it's a little weird and gross.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, it says, the writers did not intend for the interaction between Odo and the female changeling to be sexual in nature.
Even though it has been described as sexual in the show before. But okay.
Our Stephen Bear later conceded, it makes a certain amount of sense. On the other hand, LeVar Burton commented, those are love scenes. She was seducing him, straight up, plain and simple.
Yeah.
Also, according to Renee Auberjonois, I think it has some kind of sexual implications. It's definitely a very sensual experience. For Odo, it's absolutely the consummation of a kind of peace that he can't have.
I mean, in the episode where Odo got that femme fatale girlfriend, he specifically said, it's like, I had this experience that I considered sexual.
And just, nobody else considers it that way. So, like, Odo's actually kind of a freak.
Right. Yeah, all the other founders are like, whoa, sexual. Who said anything about sexual?
It's the natural state for them, I guess, right. Kind of. So
you think we're just like in a big sex puddle all the time? So Kira goes to Odo's office and finds Damar sitting at Odo's desk, apparently having been demoted. Kira asks if Damar knows where Odo is, and he's like, yeah. And she says, good, you should know where your boss is. And then Damar is like, he's in his room doing it with the shapeshifter lady, so how about that?
He's like, are you jealous? What is wrong with you?
Right. There's a lot of kind of like playground type stuff in this episode, but Kira goes to Odo's quarters where Odo sits alone staring at the stars. She asks why he was hanging out with the female changeling. You didn't link with her, did you? And he's like, well, yeah, I did, so what? She didn't find out about the resistance, if that's what you're worried about. To which I say, oh, I'm a little worried about that. I mean, she's way more experienced than Odo at linking. Like, who knows what she learned and didn't learn? And also, is she here right now? Like, is that really Odo? I feel like these are things that should be going through Kira's mind during this conversation, but...
It's true. I also like his like, it's not like an information exchange thing. And then later we're told repeatedly about like all the information she can give him if they do it.
It's like, link with me so I can exchange information easier. Anyway, Odo says that the female changeling is his only connection to his origins and understanding himself and his destiny and all that. And maybe he can help her understand that the Federation isn't a threat. And then Kira points out that the link sounds like something that could be used as a manipulation tool and reminds Odo what a bad person the female changeling historically has shown herself to be.
Yeah, Kira really has a good point. And it's not like Odo completely ignored that initially because he called her out on some of that.
Uh-huh.
But now it's like, well, I have to get past that.
Right. And I think she describes her as like an interstellar warlord or something, which I mean, yeah. Yeah. But Kira makes Odo promise not to link with the female changeling anymore. Odo agrees, but he insists that the female changeling is not a bad person. Then the Defiant preps for its mission to the Argolis cluster. Chief O'Brien schools Nog on the tradition of calling the person in charge of the ship captain, regardless of their rank.
They didn't cover that at the academy.
We just kind of forgot to do that when Sisko was commander, so... Sisko shows up on the bridge to wish Dax well and tells her not to get too comfortable in that captain's chair. Damar walks into Quark's in a good mood and orders a fancy, expensive bottle of Kanar. And then we immediately see the wheels in Quark's head start turning, like visibly.
Yep.
And Quark asks why he's so happy, and Damar says he's going to get promoted. He has an idea that is going to change the course of history. Oh, well, in that case, have a glass for free. Thanks, says Damar, but I'm still not going to tell you anything. Oh, of course, says Quark. Here, have another glass.
Yeah, it's always poured in a new glass, which I was like, is that just how Kanar works? You can't, like, sully it by putting it in a glass that already had some in it?
I mean, maybe that's just how they do it at Quarks, We always give you a fresh glass.
There's a note that the reason the writers introduced Damar's fondness for Kanar in this episode is because they want to hint at the audience that something is wrong with him under the surface. As Hans Beimler explains, he's become a real bad guy, but he's drinking, and you want to know why. He's not drinking because he's an alcoholic. He's drinking because he has a conscience. There's something he doesn't want to deal with. He knows Ducat's deal with the Dominion is wrong, and so he's drinking.
So, hints at the deep inner life of Damar.
Yeah. First we had the cut scene about how much he hates Bajorans and sneers about them, and now we have this.
Maybe this whole thing was intentional. Like, he wanted that information to find its way into the hands of the Resistance.
Ooh, that's deep.
Yeah, who knows? Then the secret Resistance cell of Kira, Odo, Rom, and Jake hold a meeting. After the success of the memo-stealing op, Jake proposes doing more stuff like that to inflame tensions between the Cardassians and the Jem'Hadar. Odo seems distracted in deep thought, but says he doesn't think it's a good idea, and Kira backs him up and says they should find a plan that they can all agree on.
I'm not sure he was actually paying enough attention to know what they were suggesting there.
He's like, what'd you say? You want to order Chinese? Nah, I'm not really feeling it. Then the doorbell rings. It's Quark. Very drunk after sharing a bottle of Kanar with Damar. And he's got something to tell them, eventually. But first he has to lay out his motivations. He doesn't like Cardassians, and the Jem'Hadar creep him out. He wants the Federation back. He wants to sell root beer again. Jake rolls his eyes and looks like he's about to say, look, root beer really isn't the keystone of our culture that you're always making it out to be.
Maybe Jake just wants some root beer since he can't get it anymore.
But Quark drops a bombshell. Damar told him he found a way to bring the mines down. They give Quark a cup of coffee and ask him how Damar is going to take the mines down. He says something about a defector, but then corrects it to deflector because that makes way more sense.
It is a really fun moment when Rom is concerned that he might be the defector. And then when he finds out it's deflector, he's like, I'm glad it wasn't me.
I mean, obviously it's deflector, because the deflector is always the answer, but...
Yep, no matter what you need to do, you just gotta,
right,
recalibrate the deflector somehow. Need to make an interplexing beacon to signal the Borg back home?
Yep. Deflector.
Need to, blow up half of the ship? Also the deflector.
Yep. They ask Rom if it's possible to take down the mines with the deflector array. He insists it's not possible. The only thing that can take the mines down is an anti-graviton beam. You can't do that with a deflector array. I mean, unless you set the array to anti-graviton beam mode, but you have to flip 2 switches to do that.
Yeah.
He's like, oh wait. Then Kira asks how they can stop that from happening, and Rom says, oh, it's simple. They just have to access the EPS feed and overload the waveguide. If the waveguide gets overloaded, then the deflector array can't be set to anti-graviton beam mode. This is pretty basic stuff.
For how long that would set them back, who knows? But
right. Permanently. I mean, once the waveguide gets overloaded, it's game over.
You gotta go to Empok Nor and pick up a new waveguide.
Right. But that thing has alarms on it, so you gotta be careful. Odo says he can do a security diagnostic, which will take the alarms down for 5 minutes. Great, says Kira. Let's do that at exactly 0800 tomorrow.
Instead of right now.
Yeah. Odo's like, okay, I'm on it. Let's not talk or coordinate anymore until then. Then Worf calls Sisko from the Rotaran so he can get a residual. I mean, ask about his wife. And Sisko says, don't worry, she's good.
Sisko says he doesn't know but yeah.
Well, he says, she wouldn't die if it meant missing her wedding or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. So, apparently Armin Shimmerman considers this to be an important episode in the development of Quark. I guess he finally admitted that he wants the humans back and wants to sell root beer. But, no, it goes back to his speech in A Time to Stand, where he's like, oh, the Dominion's not so bad.
Uh-huh.
He said, Shimmerman says, Quark is one of those deluded people who thought, this is fine, we all get to do what we want to do, and didn't realize that liberty was more important than creature comforts. but he learns, and I was very appreciative of that aspect of the arc. Like any everyman character, Quark has to go through some turmoil before he realizes the truth. Is Quark really an everyman? I don't
know. And he kind of couched it in a way that made it sound kind of racist, but
I mean, yeah, okay. So
he wasn't like, I don't like the oppression. He was like, the Jem'Hadar kind of creep me out, and I just don't like the way they stare all the time.
So yes, valid. He's like, the Cardassians are mean, and the Jem'Hadar are creepy. And so 100% that does seem racist, but at the same time, you have to remember that Star Trek races get like one character trait that defines the entire race quite often. And so like he can make that generalization because it's accurate. All the Jem'Hadar are creepy.
I think he's still mad he can't find a way to sell something to the Jem'Hadar, but
yeah, it's true. And there's not enough Vorta around to.
Yeah,
because Wayun seemed to have a good time when he visited.
Oh yeah,
Quarks,
like if there were a bunch of Wayuns, they would be like, all kinds of Dabo action going on, and
yeah. I mean, there were those 400 Vorta facilitators that were heading down to Bajor. Like, when did they come through here?
Oh yeah, I bet that was a good day.
Yeah,
assuming all Vorta have the love of games that Wayun has.
Well, yeah, that's fair. But
it's,
I mean,
it's still
if you got 400 of them, then some of them should be interested, unless they're 400 of the same person.
Right. And then, Admiral Ross comes in and tells Sisko to get some rest. He needs to be in adjutant mode for the foreseeable future. And the Defiant is going to be going on lots of missions, so you might as well just get used to it being away.
I mean, I get his perspective, but kind of a jerk. I'm just like, you could have been slightly more sympathetic to the like, yes, he's gonna have to get used to this, but this is the first time. Maybe you should expect that he would have a little trouble like making the transition, and as his new boss, maybe make it easier in some way instead of being like, shape up.
Yeah, stop worrying about that. Read these reports.
I need TPS reports on my desk tomorrow.
I was like, man, this adjutant job seems to involve a lot of reports. I don't know if this is really the promotion Admiral Ross was making it out to be.
But speaking of this section of the story, apparently this part of the story evolved a lot over the course of the writing. It says the original B story of the episode was based on the 1930 Howard Hawks film The Dawn Patrol. A major theme of the movie is that a reluctant commander is being forced to send untrained troops into the field and the moral turmoil that causes for him. So that was the first idea. I guess maybe Sisko is the one experiencing this turmoil and having to send these young kids off to fight. So Ira Stephen Bear reads that script and he's like, that doesn't work. Because this B story is like too important. It feels like it should be the A story in an episode. So let's get rid of that. So Renee Echevarria comes up with a new B story. This one is about Dax. She gets command of the Defiant and discovers that she loves combat. According to Echevarria, she gets into it too far and basically becomes Patton. And so Bear and Echevarria are like, I don't like that either. So we reinvented it again to make it a smaller, quieter story about like sitting in Sisko's shoes and how hard it is for him to like take a back seat while his friends go to war.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see this episode where Dax becomes Patton.
I'm imagining like Robert Duvall's character from Apocalypse Now.
Yeah,
it's like she's playing like Flight of the Valkyries on the loudspeakers as they attack the Jem'Hadar, and then like all this explosion. She's like, she brings out her surfboard to surf over the dead Jem'Hadar.
Jedzio's like, I love the smell of dead Jem'Hadar in the morning.
I love the smell of quantum torpedoes in the morning. It smells like victory.
Yep. Or no, when she gets up to give that speech about the phaser thing, like, I love the smell of like burned out phaser power cells.
Yeah.
And the whole crew is just staring at her like,
Maybe that wouldn't be such a great Star Trek-y direction to take the character. It would be fun, but
I don't know how you come back from that once she's become Patton in the next episode. Like, where do we go with it?
Right. We are going to go through them like crap through a goose. I mean, I think we have seen a little bit that Dax has a little bit of a bloodlust, but
She didn't want to eat any of the heart that one time. Did she? I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure she ate the heart.
Killed the albino. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she partook in that. I'd have to go back and watch. So yeah, Odo meets with the founder again in his quarters and asks her a bunch of fan questions about changeling lore. And she's like, "Let's link, I'll tell you all about it." And he's like, "Nah, I'd rather just talk." Odo is fascinated to learn so much, and the founder again is like, "Let's just link." And then Odo's like, "Well, I promised Kira I wouldn't." And the founder is like, "Come on, let's link."
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So Rom shows up at Kira's quarters under the pretense of a fruit delivery.
Good pretense. Some
Cardassians walk by, and Kira runs with it in some advanced level improv that confuses Rom.
I mean, it was great. Yeah, he's so happy at first that she's going with his fruit delivery thing, and then she's like, "I didn't order any fruit," and he's like, "Oh no, what do I do?" Like she's not yes-anding me.
I was expecting yes and here. What's going on? But it's okay. She's got it. She's got the whole thing under control. So they go off to do their sabotage. Kira reminds Rom. Oh, and then also I think while they're walking, they walk by this really weird random alien. Which, sure. I don't know, I just thought it was kind of weird. Just this random alien was in the hallway, like, she looked like the diva from Fifth Element or something.
Nice.
But yeah, so Kira reminds Rom that Odo, who we haven't talked to at all today, is going to take the sensors down at exactly 0800 hours.
I mean, he's generally so reliable that I don't fault her.
So we didn't work out any kind of signal for when he's done that, but as I've learned from decades of tradecraft in an underground resistance cell, there's no reason not to assume he's in position and able to carry out his part of this secret, super important, delicate operation.
Oh, hey, I found the character called Alien in the Corridor.
Oh, wow. Is that their name on Memory Alpha?
Well, that was the name in the credits, apparently,
okay.
Actually, they're uncredited. That is the name that it shows as a credit for them. And then when I click it, it's titled Blue-Skinned Alien with Tapering Eye Ridges.
Huh.
Members of this species had light blue skin with dark blue markings, eye ridges that tapered toward the back of the head, and were capable of growing white hair.
Or dyeing it white.
Oh, one of them will show up in in an episode yet to be aired.
Okay.
So watch out for them for the return of Alien in the Corridor.
So maybe this will add up to like 2.6 seconds of total screen time instead of like 1.2 or whatever we got this episode.
The alien in this episode was played by a regular background actor Todd Slayton. He was 6.5 hours in makeup for this brief scene.
Wow.
Yeah.
But LeVar Burton's like, I need a random alien in this scene. It just won't work if they're not there.
He also plays Vulcan Operations Officer in this same episode. So.
Oh, nice. So yeah, Rom makes his way to the entrance of Restricted Area 51.
Yep.
And waits for the scheduled time while he munches on fruit. Meanwhile, Kira casually strolls down the promenade and happens to notice that Odo is not in his office. Oh no, this Swiss watch of a plan is falling apart. Kira tries calling Odo but gets no response. Then we get an almost comical cut to Odo in his quarters, linking with the founder. It's like, Odo, where are you? And it's like, cut. It's like, link.
Yeah, they probably should have had a thing that was like, I will signal you to go ahead with the plan, Rom, right, as opposed to you go ahead with the plan unless I say something. And then she really waits a long time before even trying. Like, Damar comes in and stops her from signaling Rom, but I feel like there was plenty of time to do it before he showed up. Even after he showed up, she could have been like, oh yeah, I'll go over that with you 1 second. And then just like, Kira to Rom, cancel fruit delivery.
Yeah, this definitely needed an extra round of planning. Like, literally all they did was, Odo said, oh, I can do that. And Kira said, do it at 0800. And they, like, just broke up at that point. And then Rom, like, even had to improvise the whole fruit thing himself. So, usually, you want to, you go over these details and kind of walk through it step by step and do, like, what if, whatever. But, Kira is not in her best resistance cell mode or whatever right now.
Well, look who she's got to work with. Odo, who has suddenly become completely unreliable.
Right.
Rom, who's clearly an idiot. And Jake, who is, if anyone on the station was going to be working against the occupying force, everyone knows it would be him.
Right.
So it's like, this is not the best team.
Yeah. So Damar shows up in Odo's office, and he wants to talk to Kira about the personnel report right now. Kira's like, dude, why are you Mr. Personnel Report fan all of a sudden?
Well, he's a gull now, you know?
Yeah, it's like, I want to do the personnel report. This is what my entire career has been leading up to.
Yep.
But yeah, so she goes outside and calls Rom and tells him not to open the door to Area 51, but too late, he already did. The alarm goes off, and Rom, like, commando dives back into the plasma conduit to get out of there. But it's no good. Damar catches him.
I mean, as long as the alarm has gone off, just do the thing. Sabotage the whatchamacallit and take your licks.
That's a good point. Yeah. Commit to the mission, Rom. It's like, is this the protect Rom at all costs mission, or is this the stop thousands of Jem'Hadar ships from flooding into the Alpha Quadrant mission? Like, so back at Starbase 375, the Defiant gets back from its mission. Bashir asks Dax to back him up on his story of his, I guess, heroic moment that nobody believes.
Well, that a specific ensign, female ensign, doesn't believe. The one that he apparently hooked up with on that one planet when they traveled to the past and had lived there forever. So he's still trying to hit that.
So that's like a background story. Is he still trying to like get his in with her?
Yep.
Okay. Saurian brandy is passed all around, and O'Brien shows up with another used-up power cell. And then Dax makes the same speech about the symbolism and awkwardly places the cell on a different, even more precarious-looking pipe than the other ones.
Yep.
And then Sisko looks on. He's just like, she stole my whole bit. Kira goes to Odo's quarters, quite angry. I like that she like punches the doorbell like a bunch of times.
Oh yeah, she hits that hard.
She's like demanding to know what the hell, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I didn't take the sensors down. I was busy linking." And she's like, "So you forgot?" And he's like, "Oh no, I didn't forget. I just didn't do it. I was having too much fun linking.
Yeah, I just didn't care."
Yeah, I was totally remembering the whole time that I should be doing that, but Kira says, "Well, now a lot of people are going to die," and Odo says that doesn't have anything to do with me. Which is a little bit of a shocking thing for Odo to say.
Yeah. He's just, it's like, yeah, those millions or billions of people, I mean, why the hell should I care?
Kira asked, doesn't their friendship of the last 5 years mean anything? And Odo was like, not really. I mean, I think you're not getting it. I don't think I've properly explained how awesome linking is.
Yeah, if only you weren't a solid and you could understand, but you are, right. So you can't, so shove off.
Yep. She's like, you can't understand. You're a solid. And she's like, and then she leaves. And then female changeling comes out around the corner and says, "Wow, that looked like a bad argument. Did she upset you?" And Odo stares off with a dopey look on his face and is like, "Nah." The end.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up. What's going on there with old Odo and this female changeling, and I mean, this dramatic shift in personality where he's just like, yeah, I don't care about anything anymore except getting high. I mean, linking. It's, I don't like it.
So I was gonna turn off the sensors, and then I got linked.
Also, like, so did she just hear that entire conversation about, like, their plan to,
oh, yeah, whatever? For sure.
I mean, she doesn't seem to care much, but...
Yeah, and, like, Kira made no effort to protect, like, that sensitive information. She like, didn't do any check. Like, first of all, she is a changeling. She could be, like, that chair. She could be Odo. Like, really, you got to be careful about what you're doing here.
Yep.
They need to, like, when they learn his changeling is on the station, they need to be, like, doing blood tests at every resistance meeting. I mean,
Odo can't pass a blood test, but...
That's true. Yeah, how would Odo prove that he's Odo?
I don't know.
They just might need to be like, you know what, Odo, you sit this one out. Except Odo is like normally would be one of the only two competent ones there. So
yeah,
you can't really exclude Odo.
There's only one other note, but it's about the title, so I'll save it for title reviews. So I guess let's do episode review. What did you think of Behind the Lines? Is that what it's called?
All right. Well, yeah, Behind the Lines.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. Well, there's things I like and there's things I don't like. So I feel like this definitely had a problem that I feel a lot with when shows are more serialized, when it's like we kind of have to put characters on the back burner. I'm talking about the Sisko and Dax story here.
Yeah.
Like, we have to kind of advance them to where we're taking them, but we also kind of have to, like, you know, we're more just moving the chess pieces than telling, like, a story, even though this was kind of like a little story with a little character, like, arc or whatever. But it just, you know, seeing Sisko go into this, I guess, more command administrative role, and Dax, you know, get this chance to step up. I mean, I guess it worked, but it didn't really, like, amaze me. I mean, the main story is obviously, like, the Kira and Odo stuff, and which in some ways I like. I like Odo, like, you know, personal journey stuff, like him, you know, being conflicted between, like, his life and you know, his life on DS9 and his origins, and learning more about who he is and what he's capable of and stuff like that. But I just never really like Odo and Kira stuff, and it just always played creepy, I feel like. So that kind of puts me off. But I mean, we got you know, we got all our great characters. Female changeling, you know, Dukat, Damar, Wayoon, everybody's having a little bit of fun this episode. So, I think, and, you know, it's a pretty important episode for the story. So, I think, even though the Sisko and Dax stuff is just kind of, and Admiral Ross stuff is just meh, and I really don't like, most of the time, the Odo and Kira stuff. I think I'll give it a Commander, because it is, you know, a pretty solid episode, and you know, we're definitely in the full swing of this whole Dominion War story that we're telling. Yep. So
it's true.
What do you think?
Okay, so I will agree with one thing, at least, that this is definitely an important episode for the overall arc that we're looking at here, from the on the station perspective in particular, because we're establishing, you know, the minefield. They figure out how to take down the minefield. Odo has, if not been taken off the board, his position becomes uncertain. Like, I don't know, maybe you could actually believe that he might turn on them and join the Founders at this point after what he's done in this episode. Rom has been, like, captured and is going to be interrogated. Everyone, like, the whole resistance cell might crumble. Like, this is important stuff.
Right.
All that said, like, I don't like the episode very much. So there's the on the station stuff first, I guess. The one good bit was that the bit at the beginning in the bar. Like you said, it's like the best scene of the episode. Oh yeah, where Kira and Rom are sitting there narrating, and, like, the fight happens and stuff. That was some good stuff. And then Damar figuring out how to take down the minefield and having the scene with Quark, and Quark has to, like, get drunk to get him to talk. That was also pretty good. Yeah. Everything else that happens, I'm like, look, this is good for the story, but I don't enjoy it. Like, I don't like, I like Odo. I don't like seeing Odo be like, nah, screw all the billions of people who are going to die. I don't care. I don't know them.
Right.
Or not even I don't know them, because he doesn't care about Kira either. He's just like, they're not me. Why should I care? He's getting, like, infected by the Founders thing about how they're the only ones who matter and solids are not worth anything. And I'm like, that's just such a dramatic shift for him that I guess if they paid it off as, like, oh, it was some sort of weird changeling mind control and she was lying the whole time, then maybe I could buy it. But the way that it's just like, I mean, basically it does seem like drugs. He's just like, this was so great that I no longer care about billions of people dying. I'm like, okay. And then Kira has some good points in the arguments that she's making with Odo, but she's just like, why are you still relying on Odo when you can tell that he, like, things are already taking a turn? And then, you know, Jake is an idiot for the whole thing.
Right.
Like, he, from the moment he stayed on Deep Space Nine, I'm just like, okay, you're dumb. I don't, like, whatever. So, I've got lots of issues with that one. I don't have... The story that they did for the B story is okay. It's just that I don't care. Like, like, the story about how Sisko's sad because he gave up command of his ship, which you didn't have to do that. Like, you don't have to accept the promotion. You can be like, no. He took the promotion and then is sad about it. And I'm just like, this is like the epitome of first world problems. I don't feel bad for you. What would have been a much more interesting story that without changing what's happening is let's follow Dax as she becomes commander of the Defiant. She goes on this dangerous mission. What happens on the mission? We don't know anything except that she succeeds. And they take out this sensor array that can detect cloaked ships 2 light years away, which...
Yeah, that would have been cool to see.
Never comes into play again. How does... You know, she started out on the show as, like, the young, new kid. Her and Bashir were kind of like the 2 new kids who were showing up on Deep Space Nine as, like, young officers. And now she's in command of the Defiant. So how does that change her relationship with all these people? And what struggles does she have now being in command for the first time ever? Like, there's all sorts of interesting things that you could have done with this story that weren't just like Sisko looking longingly out the window, which I'm just like, I don't care. Like, this is not the interesting part of what's happening here. So like I said, I feel disappointed that we don't get Jadzia being Patton. Like, that could have been fun.
Yeah.
I don't know about the very dour, like, Sisko's having to send young boys off to die. That was the very original one. Like, I can probably do without that one. But
yeah.
There was just so much more that they could have done with that B story that they're just like, we don't want it to intrude too much on the A story. But I don't really like the A story that much. I mean, it's important, but I don't like it. So, yeah, and there's nothing that I dislike strongly enough to be like, this is going to go below the line for me. But just overall, I'm like, this is a very meh episode for me, because I'm like, there's nothing that I really like about it. And I feel like there could have been a lot that they could have done better in the B story. So I feel like I have to put it above the line. It is important. They're doing a lot of heavy lifting here and setting up some things moving forward. And so I guess I'm going to go Lieutenant Commander.
All right. Yeah, I mean, the thing about that beast, I mean, the B story works. Like, you can tell what they're going for, and they accomplish it. But yeah, like you said, it's just like, I mean, they could do the old classic, like, Dax isn't so sure about taking command, and then you know, she gets into a situation, and then it's like, well, Captain Sisko would do this. And then she's like, well, I'm not Captain Sisko. I'm going to do this. And,
right.
You know,
or
she takes ownership of it like that or something.
You could even do, like, I mean, there's lots of stories about, like, being the boss for the first time that you could do here. You could do, like, Dax feels like she has to show the crew that she knows what she's doing, so she gets their respect as their commander, and she learns along the way that, you know, she has to delegate that the other people are really good at what they do too, which she already knows, but she doesn't want... Like, there's all sorts of stories that you could tell that would be interesting character development for not even just Dax or just Sisko. You could have lots of the crew growing and featured in this episode as they have to, like, get used to the new status quo. But we don't get that. We get, like, a little bit of Dax, O'Brien walking in to say the same thing twice in the episode, and then that one quick moment of Bashir, and other than that, it's, like, just Sisko.
Yeah, I mean, we could even do the thing where she's the captain, but she's constantly like looking over the shoulder of the new science officer.
Yeah.
Being like, hey, don't do that. And it's like, sir, I have this. And then, kind of learning to step out of that mindset and be the, I think it just works way better as a Dax focused story than a Sisko focused story, because I don't feel like we really did anything very interesting with Sisko. So, I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of little stuff I liked, like those scenes we talked about. I felt like Quark Armin Sharman did some good acting in this episode. I think, Nana Visitor did some really good acting. So, I mean, there's some quality stuff in here, but yeah, it's, there's a lot of stuff that I think has the potential to be a little off-putting or not very interesting. So, but I stand by my commander.
Yeah. Okay. Title review.
Yeah, title review.
So apparently,
Behind the Lines.
The original title for the episode was "Life During Wartime," which is terrible.
Uh-huh.
So I like this one better than that one.
So improvement on that, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I mean, what lines are we behind? I'm just...
Yeah.
Because the expression is behind enemy lines, right? And so...
Well,
kind of...
To me, behind the lines, when you say it this way, it's more like, this is what's going on. Like, the battle lines are over there. And
we're, the lines of battle. Yeah.
Yeah, we're back behind the lines, so we're doing the stuff that's going on in the background of the battles, basically.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes it make a little bit more sense. So that actually warms me up to it a little bit. So now I'm a little bit conflicted.
My problem is, like, most of the episodes in this arc are that. Well, maybe that's not fair. I guess, like, Sisko did take his ship on a mission to blow up the Catcher White facility, and then they crashed and had to, like, go up against some Jem'Hadar. So that wasn't behind the lines. I guess everything on the station has been behind the lines. So how this differentiates from that.
So yeah, I guess it mainly points to Sisko now having to take up his new position, not on the front line, but behind the lines or something like that.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah, I guess it works.
I don't think it's memorable at all or particularly clever. If you stretch, I think you could say it fits, but I don't think it meets in any of the other categories. So,
yeah, it's a little bit of it's definitely not a very snazzy title, and yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to remember it like a few weeks from now, but okay, so I'm still trying to figure out how to make this like uniform color thing work. Like how, because I want to do like red, yellow, and blue episodes, but like how would you decide what's a red episode, what's a yellow episode, what's a blue episode?
I feel like this is a very command episode. This is a red episode for me.
Yeah. If it's command heavy or
I mean, you got the Sisko part, and you got the like station's ruling council or whatever, and Kira she's never had uniform, she's not Starfleet, but she was like second in command of the station, so I feel like it's a command oriented thing.
All right. I think like, a blue episode would be like a classic sci-fi type episode.
Yeah, something sciencey or medically. Yeah. Like I
don't know
that one where Bashir has to cure the virus or whatever. Yeah,
exactly. And then I guess a yellow episode, like any O'Brien centric thing, would be like a yellow episode or
security. I mean, maybe a very Odo like doing an investigation episode would also fit there.
Okay, yeah. Maybe maybe something like a holodeck gone wrong feels a little bit like a yellow to me. I don't know.
Okay.
So yeah, we can call this one red, I guess. This is not something I'm going to like document or keep track of while I figure out how this gimmick is going to work. But anyway, want to wrap it up there?
Yep.
So yeah, that's our discussion of Behind the Lines. Thanks for listening. If you like that one, maybe you'll like our discussion of Heart of Stone. The female changeling was in that one. Spoilers. That's the one where Kira's foot was stuck in the rock.
Yep. Except it wasn't Kira's foot.
Right. I had to look up. That was the one. I was like, what was that episode called? I had to look it up.
That's a memorable one for me. I remember that one. So.
Right. It's memorable now that I know it, but anyway, you can find that wherever you're listening to this. All of our past episodes, and if you're listening to this in the future episodes up to whenever you exist, should be on whatever platform you're listening on. If you want to leave us a comment, you can do that on the YouTube Fletcher from the Deep channel, or just search for Undeclared Bajor. Go to www.undeclaredbajor.com. Anyway, my name is Fletcher. About to say goodbye is Data.
See ya.
We look forward to seeing you next week. But remember, I try.